Hello, hello. What's going on, family? I hope you are great. Man, I hope you've had a great day. The weather's starting to look a little good. You know, we can get outside now. It's not too cold. It's starting to heat up for us. So praise Yah for that. For we know he makes all things. The earth is Yah's and the fullness thereof. So we give all him the glory. And we will be in Genesis chapter 28 now. We will be in Genesis chapter 28. And we'll be looking at, as we always do, just a few points in Genesis 28 that we can learn from, that we can grow from, that we can apply to our lives, and that we can be edified, that we can grow in our walk, and that we may please our Father who gave his son for us. So let's get right into it. We'll be in Genesis 28, and we'll be looking at a few verses. We'll just start from verse 1. And it says, "And Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Arise and go to Padanaram, to the house of Bethuel, thy mother's father, and take thee a wife from thence of the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother. And Elohim Almighty bless thee, and make thee fruitful, and multiply thee, that thou mayest be a multitude of people, and give thee, or give you, the blessing of Abraham, to thee and to thy seed with thee, that thou mayest inherit the land wherein you are a stranger, which Elohim gave unto Abraham." All right, we're going to stop right there. So in verse 1, it's a lot even in verse 1, because Isaac, we know, is Jacob's father. Isaac is Jacob's father. And what Isaac says right here says, Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him that he should not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. So he wanted to preserve righteousness. We know in the scriptures it says, when Yah was speaking to his people, in Amos chapter 3, it says, how can two walk together unless they be agreed? Two people can't walk together if they're not agreed. And also we know in the book of 1 Corinthians 15, if I'm not mistaken, verse 33, it says, be not deceived, evil communications corrupt good manners. So we can even see in this, Isaac giving this charge, the same charge that he received from Abraham. Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. You know, not being unequally yoked. But also right here in this verse, when Isaac's speaking to Jacob, it says, and Isaac called Jacob, Genesis 28 verse 1, he blessed him and he charged him and he said to him. And this is exactly what a father does to a son. And I just want to bring out a verse that we can look at this in, because the Father does the same thing to us. He blesses us, he charges us, and he says to us. He does these same things to us when he speaks to us, when he's revealing things to us, when we just read the word. This is what he does. And in 1 Timothy, it brings it out pretty nice. Before we even go to 1 Timothy, we'll look at another verse. Before that, we'll look at 1 Kings. 1 Kings chapter 2, we can see this, how David charged Solomon. And then we're going to look at another instance in how the Father does it to us as well, because he does the same thing throughout the scriptures. In 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 1 through 2, it says, Now the days of David drew nigh, that he should die, and he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong, therefore, and show thyself a man. So he says he's going the way of the earth. David is about to die, and he charges Solomon, or he commands Solomon. He instructs Solomon, I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong, therefore, and show yourself a man. Yah charged Adam, and Elohim commanded the man, saying, don't eat of that tree. That was a charge. That was Torah, because there was guidance. There was teaching. That's what Torah means. That it doesn't just mean law. It means guidance or teaching. So he gave Adam law or guidance, and Elohim commanded the man, saying. So he charged him not to do that, not to go do it, but we know he did it. But we thank him for his grace through his son, Yeshua, that we all can be redeemed and saved now. So praise Yah for that. But as we go to the book of not First Timothy, but 1 Thessalonians, we can look at this. 1 Thessalonians, and we'll go to some more things, how the Father charges us. 1 Thessalonians chapter 2. And this is Paul speaking, but we can see the Father in this verse. because he does this. We know he does this to us. First Thessalonians, chapter 2, verse 11 and 12, it says, and ye know how we exhorted and comforted and charged every one of you, as a father doeth his children, that ye should walk worthy of Elohim, who hath called you unto his kingdom and glory. So this is Paul in the book of Thessalonians speaking to these people, and he says, and you know how we exhorted. You know, and the word exhort means to strengthen one's faith, to correct their behavior, promote unity, or to urge believers toward holiness or set apartness, to be set apart according to YAH'S word, and to pursue a godly course of action. So that's what it means to exhort. If I exhort you, or if you were to exhort me, you would exhort me toward holiness. You would exhort me towards being set apart for Yah. And we know from Old to New Testament, his commands, his instructions is what sets us apart from the world. Also, if you was to strengthen me, if you was to correct me, if you was to encourage me, if you was to urge me to pursue a godly course or to remain faithful to the truth, this is what it means to exhort. So as we see this in 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 11, Paul saying to these people, as you know how we exhorted and comforted, we know the Father comforts us in the scriptures. When he says things, you know, I have loved you with an everlasting love, or fear not thou, Jacob, I am with you even unto the end of the world. We know when he says, what does he say in Isaiah 43? That's one of my favorite. But now thus says Yah, that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed you, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. I try to get to it, but that's basically what the verse says. You're mine. I've called you by your name. You're mine. I've redeemed you. You know, these things comforts us. So as Paul says this, that he exhorted, verse 11, 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, he exhorted and comforted and charged every one of you, as the Father doeth his children, that ye should walk worthy of Elohim, who hath called you into his kingdom and glory. We should always keep it in our minds that we are kings and priests, that we are not of this world, that we should walk worthy of this calling. This calling is too high. This calling is high, 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 high. It's high. We have been called by heaven. We have been called by heaven. Even Paul said, if I'm not mistaken, he did not reject the heavenly calling. We've been called to holiness. As it says in Hebrews 12, verse 14, be at peace with all men and holiness, or being set apart, without which no man shall see Yah. So we've been called to a high calling to walk a certain way. And if we go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 real fast, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, starting in verse 3, it says, for this is the will of Elohim, even your sanctification, that you abstain from fornication, that every one of you should know how to possess his vessel in sanctification and honor. Verse 7, for Elohim has not called us unto uncleanness, but unto holiness. So Yah has not called us to uncleanness or unclean things, but unto holiness, or to being set apart or set apartness. You know, unclean things, unclean, a man's ways can be unclean. The things a man eat can be unclean. A man's heart can be unclean. A man's condition can be unclean before Yah. He has not called us to that, but he has called us to holiness, being set apart according to what is written. Okay, so I love that. And even in this 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 12 again, that you should walk worthy of Elohim. We should walk worthy of this high calling. You know, we're kings, we're priests, we are sons, and we are daughters. You know, we're not to make his name stink amongst the nations. We're not to profane his name. And it's not just about saying the Father's name, you know, which we shouldn't say his name just any type of way. But profaning his name, the word name has to do with character. It has to do with authority. So we can profane Yah's name by, he's already placed his name upon us. We call ourselves believers. We call ourselves a part of his people. But if we're living like the world, we're living like the devil, we're living like those who haven't known the Messiah at all, you know, that's profaning Yah's name. That's taking his name in vain, or living lukewarm. That's taking his name in vain. Okay? Because his name, the word in Hebrew is Shem. It's connected to authority. It's connected to glory, fame, and character. You know, so when we live a certain way out, like if we call ourselves believers, we call ourselves in the faith or in the truth, and we're living a way that does not give glory to Yah, we, me, or you, we are taking Yah's name in vain. And he will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. So it's a serious calling. So when Paul says this in verse 12 in 2 Thessalonians chapter 12, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 12, that you walk worthy of Elohim, who hath called you into his kingdom and glory. Okay, so this is all based off of what Isaac did to Jacob. It said he charged him. In the book of Genesis chapter 28, Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, he said these things, the father calling his son, and we're his sons and daughters, so the father calling us. He blesses us and he charges us, and then he begins to say unto us various things. Let's go to the book of Proverbs and look at this again. Proverbs chapter 4. Proverbs chapter 3 first. Proverbs chapter 3, starting at verse 1. It says, my son, forget not my Torah, or forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck, write them upon the table of your heart. So shall you find favor and good understanding in the sight of Elohim. Amen. This is so beautiful because the commandments are supposed to be a blessing. They're not supposed to be a burden. When we're born again, we're filled with his spirit. These things are a blessing, not a burden. But it says, for length of days, long life, and peace shall they add to you. And what's interesting in verse 4, it says, so shall you find favor and good understanding in the sight of Elohim and man. Who wants favor with Yah? It's simple. It's walking in his ways. My son, this is a charge. My son, forget not my law, my Torah, my love language, as many people say. But let your heart keep my commandments. And when he said you'll find favor and good understanding in the sight of Elohim and man, let's go to the book of Luke 2. Let's see why Yeshua, our example, who we should follow, let's see why he had favor. If we look at the book of Luke, chapter 2, verse 40 and verse 52, it says, speaking of Yeshua, and the child grew and waxed strong in spirit, filled with wisdom, and the grace of Elohim was upon him. Favor. Proverbs 3. Then verse 52, it says, and Yeshua increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with Elohim and man. Proverbs 3. You see how the whole of scriptures is one? This is just one instance. The whole of scriptures is one. It says Yeshua was in favor with Elohim and with man. Why? My son, keep my commandments and let my law be in your heart. Let mercy and truth not forsake you. Is this not how the Messiah walked? Was he not full of mercy? Was he not full of truth? Was he not full of the ways of Yah, the commandments of Yah, the statutes of Yah, the instructions of Yah? We know he was. This is why he was in favor with him and with man. And this is exactly how we can be, because it says it in Proverbs 3 for us. And then let's look at another one. One more charge, then we'll go to the next thing in Proverbs chapter 4. Proverbs chapter 4. It says, hear, my children, the instruction of a father, and attend to no understanding. For I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law. So you see there it says, hear ye children, the instruction of a father, and attend to no understanding. Where does understanding come from? Verse 2, for I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law. We know what he said in Deuteronomy, when we would obey his words and keep his words, he gives wisdom. He gives wisdom. It's nothing about being prideful or nothing like that. We're still all unprofitable servants, as Yeshua said, because we're only doing the things which was commanded us. But he says in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 4, it says, speaking about his commandments, starting at verse 6, keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations. We shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great, who has Elohim so nigh unto him, as Yah our Elohim is in all things that we call upon him for? So the wisdom and the understanding in the sight of the nation comes from the statutes or the commands, the instructions of the Father. And it's exactly what he says right here in Proverbs 4. Hear ye children the instructions of a father, and attend to no understanding, for I give you good doctrine. forsake ye not my law. This is what Yeshua did in Matthew chapter 5, starting at verse 17 through 19. Think not that I've come to destroy the law. What's found within the law? Good doctrine. Forsake ye not my law. Attend to no understanding. Proverbs 4. Deuteronomy 4. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations. Speaking of the Father's ways, his law. So when Yeshua spoke in Matthew 5, think not that I've come to destroy the law of the prophets. I'm not come to destroy it, but to fulfill. Plerao. Fulfill. That's what that word fulfill means. It means to make full or to fully preach. And of course to fulfill the death and the life and the resurrection, which was written in the law and the prophets, but also to actually teach and to fulfill. Isaiah 42, if I'm not mistaken, that the Messiah is prophesied that he would magnify the law and make it honorable. So that's why he says, think not that I've come to destroy the law. This is where the wisdom and the doctrine comes from. The whole New Testament is founded on the Old Testament. Okay, and then he says, whosoever breaks one of these least commandments and teaches men so shall be called least in the kingdom of Yah. But whosoever does and teaches them shall be called great. And I don't know about you, but I want to be called great. And then from Matthew 5, 6, and 7, he's literally teaching statutes. If you go down those teachings, you have heard it said, he's pulling from the Torah or the prophets or the Psalms and all these things. You have heard it said. You have heard it said, do this, do that, don't do that. He's literally pulling from the law. Why? Proverbs 4, for I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law. The whole Beatitudes in Matthew 5, 6, and 7 is the law of Yah. His statutes, his word, his commands, his instructions. All right? So we see that Yeshua was charged. He had favor and good understanding in Yah's sight. We can have favor and good understanding in Yah's sight. Proverbs 3, by this charge, my son, forget not my law, but let your heart keep my commandments. So shall you find favor and good understanding in the sight of Elohim and man. So he charges us as well as Isaac charged Jacob not to go and get this Canaanite woman. As Isaac charged Jacob and he spoke to him, the Father charges us the same way, all right? As a father does his children. And we got that from Genesis 28, verse 4. Not Genesis 28, verse 4, but Genesis 28, verse 1. And then when we go to Genesis 28, verse 4, when it says, and give thee the blessing of Abraham to thee, and to thy seed with thee, that thou mayest inherit the land, wherein thou art a stranger, which Elohim gave unto Abraham. So right here we see that it says that Yah gave Abraham this land, but we know Abraham died. He did not inherit that promise, but he believed it. So when Yah says he gives something to us, it's already ours. We have to believe his word and just take him at his word. In the book of Psalm 119, verse 89, it says, forever, O Yah, your word is settled in heaven. So if he has spoken something, we can believe it, take him at his word, because when he speaks something, it's already done. And it says he gave Abraham the land, which we know he gave it to him, but we also know Abraham did die without having to inherit it. But of course, when the kingdom comes, we're going to all inherit it at once. But the word was never void. It was always going to come to pass. It's for all the seed to inherit it at once, even though he already said it's done. And another example of this is in Romans chapter 4. Romans chapter 4, verse 17, about how we can take the promises of Yah when he says something to us. Romans 4, verse 17, it says, as it is written, I have made thee a father of many nations. He told Abraham that. I've made you a father of many nations. Basically, it's already done. I've already made you a father of many nations. And it still had to come to pass. But because it came out of Yah's word, it was already done. So we can take his promises the same way. It's already done. He's promised me this. It's already done. Before him who he believed, even Elohim, who quickeneth or makes alive the dead, and calls those things which be not as though they were. So Yah calls those things which be not as though they were. So even in Deuteronomy, when Yah was telling the people, I've given you the land, go and possess it. He already gave us the land. We're to go and to possess the land. Whenever we possess the land in our lives, whenever we're trying to grow in a specific area in our life, he's telling us, I've already given it to you, go and possess it. Whenever you're trying to go and possess the land, sometimes it may be a giant there, giant of unbelief, giant of fear, a besetting sin, a giant there. Go and possess the land. He's already given you the victory. We're going in his strength. Okay? You see that when he says that like in Deuteronomy. We're going to look at an example real fast, because it says there in Romans chapter 4 that he calls those things that be not as though they already were. So when he promises us something, we can know that it's already ours. It's already ours. Literally, it's already ours. In the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 1. Deuteronomy chapter 1. What verse can we look at? Where is it at? Yeah, Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 8. It says, behold, I have set the land before you. So he says, I have set the land before you. Go in and possess the land, which I swear unto your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and give to them and to their seed after them. Okay, so he says, go in and possess the land. So he's already telling us to go get it because he's going to give it to us. All we have to do is go by faith. Verse 30, for Yah your Elohim, which goeth before you, he shall fight for you according to all that he did for you in Egypt before your eyes. All right. Then we go in we're going chapter 2. He says the same thing. Verse 3, what can we get from this in Deuteronomy 2? It says, starting in verse 2, in Deuteronomy 2, and Yah spake unto me, saying, you have compassed this mountain long enough, turn you northward. You've been here too long enough. You've been in this area too long in your life. You've been in this type of stage too long in your life. Go northward. What's northward? The kingdom, isn't it? Go northward. You've been in this stage too long. It's time to grow here. You've been in this stage too long. It's time to advance from here. You've been in this stage too long. Go northward. Go higher. Come higher. So in verse 3, in Deuteronomy 2, you have compassed this mountain long enough. Turn you northward. And we see also in Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 24, rise ye up, get up, stand up, awake, put on your strength. I'm your strength. Go with me. I'm going with you. I'm going to hold your hand. Verse 24, rise ye up, take your journey and pass over the river Arnon. Behold, I have given into thine hand Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it and contend with him in battle. So he says, I've given you this land, go possess it and contend with him in battle. Why? Because sometimes it's not always easy. We got to contend with some of these things in battle. We know Yah doesn't make everything easy. He's trying to make us firm. In Isaiah 50, verse 7, speaking of the Messiah, says, I have made my face like a flint. I have made my forehead like flint. I have made my face like a flint, and I know I shall not be moved. Yah uses these things to strengthen our faith, that we may trust in him alone, going in his power, going in his strength, knowing that we got the victory, knowing that he is with us, knowing that the angels encamp around about those who fear him and deliver them. So when it says that in verse 24, rise ye up, take your journey and pass over the river of Arnon. Behold, I have, past tense, given into thy hand Sihon, the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it and contend with him in battle. A lot of the times the battle is right here in the mind. If Yah has promised something, we know it's ours. We can go and possess the land. As Joshua said in Numbers, they are bread for us. Hallelujah. They are bread for us. Whatever difficulty in your life, whatever obstacle in your life, it is bread for you. And it is bread for me. We're going with Yah. You know who Yah is? Do we really know who he is? All these things are bread for us. He's going with us and before us. Mighty. We serve a mighty Elohim. Praise Yah. We serve a mighty Elohim. So now, the last point, one of the last points we're going to look at in Genesis 28. Genesis 28, when Abraham fell asleep, we see this ladder. Genesis 28, starting at verse 10, it says, and Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran, and he lighted upon a certain place and tarried there all night, because the sun was set. And he took of the stones of that place and put them for his pillows, and lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of Elohim ascending and descending on it. And behold, Yah stood above it and said, I am Yah Elohim of Abraham thy father, and the Elohim of Isaac. The land which thereon thou liest, to thee I will give it, and to thy seed. And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And in thee, and in thy seed shall all families of the earth be blessed. And if we go to verse 16, it says, and Jacob awaked out of his sleep, and he said, surely Yah is in this place, and I knew it not. And he was afraid and said, how dreadful is this place? This is none other but the house of Elohim, and this is the gate of heaven. Verse 22, it says, and this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be Elohim's house. But we're going to stop right here. We're going to look at verse 11 and 12 and go through this dream. It says, and he dreamed in verse 12, and behold, a ladder set up on earth. Remember, this ladder is on earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of Elohim ascending and descending on it. And behold, this is important, Yah stood above it. Okay? Yah stood above it. He had a dream of this ladder reaching from heaven to earth, and Yah stood above this ladder. Let's go to the book of John, chapter 1. What did the Messiah say? John chapter 1, starting at verse 47. This is when John saw Nathanael. Now I'll start a little bit before, starting in verse 3 in John chapter 1. The day following, Yeshua would go forth into Galilee, and findeth Philip, and saith unto him, follow me. Now Philip was of Bethany, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip findeth Nathanael, and saith unto him, we have found him of whom Moses in the law and prophets did write, Yeshua of Nazareth, or Yahushua, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. And Nathanael said unto him, can there any good thing come out of Nazareth? Philip saith unto him, come and see. Verse 47, Yeshua saw Nathanael coming to him, and saith of him, behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom is no guile. Wonderful testimony. Verse 48, Nathanael saith unto him, whence knowest thou me? Or when do you know me? Yeshua answered and said unto him, behold, before Philip called thee, when thou was under the fig tree, I saw thee. Nathanael answered and said unto him, Rabbi, thou art the son of Elohim, thou art the king of Israel, or Israel. Yeshua answered and said unto him, watch this, y'all. Yeshua answered and said unto him, because I said unto thee, I saw you under the fig tree, believest thou, or do you believe this? Thou shalt see greater things than these. And he said unto him, verily, verily, I say unto you, hereafter you shall see heaven open, and the angels of Elohim ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. Okay? We saw in Genesis 28 that these angels was ascending and descending upon this ladder. But then right here, Yeshua says, hereafter you shall see heaven open. Remember Jacob was in a vision, a dream. But right here, Yeshua says in John 1, verse 51, you shall see heaven open and the angels of Elohim ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. The Son of Man is the ladder to heaven. What did he say in the book of John? I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father. Nobody comes to the Father but through me. He is our intercessor. He is our mediator. He is the only way to the Father. He is that ladder. He is that ladder which stretched from heaven to earth. He is that ladder. As he says in John 10, I am the door. Nobody enters in but through me. He is the door. You go by another way, you are a thief and a liar, you are a thief. That's what the Messiah said. Anybody who goes up the other way, they are a thief. They are a thief. There's no other way. Verse 7 through 9 in John chapter 10, it says, then said Yeshua unto them again, verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture. The thief cometh not but to steal, and to kill, and to destroy. I am come that you may have life, and that you might have it more abundantly. But as we see right here, he says, all that came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them, the false prophets. the false dreams, the false promises. Yeshua is the only way. He is the door of the sheep. And nobody can enter in but through him. He is that door to the kingdom. He is that way to the kingdom. He is the only way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to him, to the Father, but through him. He is that ladder that stretches from heaven all the way down to earth. It's Yeshua the Messiah, Yahushua, the King, Yah's salvation. All right, he is that ladder. And if we look at another verse in 1 Timothy, because we know we've all sinned and fall short of the glory of Yah, Isaiah 33 verse 22 says, Yah is our judge, Yah is our lawgiver, Yah is our king, and he will save us. He is a lawgiver, and we've broken that law. The wages of sin is death. As Paul said, who will save me from this, O wretched man, who will save me from this body of sin? I thank Elohim the Father through our Master Yeshua. I thank him through the Messiah, because it's through him that we have reconciliation. It's through him that we have forgiveness. It's through him that the blood cleanses us from all sin. He is truly the way, the only way. He is that ladder. As Jacob had that dream, he saw a ladder, and angels descending and ascending upon it. Yeshua said, the angels descend and ascend upon me. He is that ladder. Praise Yah, that he is that ladder. But if we look at 1 Timothy, it also says something else. 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 5. It says, for 5 and 6, it says, for there is one Elohim and one mediator between Elohim and man, the man, Messiah, Yeshua, or Mashiach, Yahushua, who gave himself a ransom for all, to be testified in due time. He is coming. For there is one Elohim and one mediator between Elohim and men, the man, Messiah, Yeshua. It's the same as Moses standing between the children of Israel. Elohim here, Moses, and the people. Moses had to intercede for these people. Moses had to intercede for these people before Yah, that Yah won't destroy them. Just it's the same. The Messiah intercedes before Yah, that he doesn't destroy us, and he didn't. He has saved those who have come to him. He has reconciled us. He has saved us. He has called us from the foundation of the world. The same calling Jeremiah had. I knew you in your mother's womb. We're not called into this truth or into this walk for no reason. He has called us. He has chosen us. He has selected us for this very walk, for this very truth, for his very ways, to walk worthy of this calling, as we looked at in the beginning. All right? All right? In verse 22, we can close off on, in Genesis 28, verse 22, it says, and this stone, which I have set for a pillar, shall be Elohim's house. This stone, which I have set for a pillar. Because in verse 18, it says, and Jacob rose up early in the morning and took the stone that he had and put for his pillows, and he set it for a pillar and poured oil upon it on the top of it. And then in verse 22, it says, and this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be Elohim's house. And I just want to take something from there, a stone being set for Elohim's pillar. I mean, a stone being set, and then he said this is Elohim's house. In the book of 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 15, it says, but if I tarry long, that thou mayest know how that thou oughtest behave thyself in the house of Elohim. Or if I tarry long, that you may know how you should behave yourself in Elohim's house, which is the church or assembly of the living Elohim, the pillar and ground of truth. You see them same words in Genesis 28, when Jacob says that in verse 22, and this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be Elohim's house. This stone which I have set for a pillar shall be Elohim's house. The pillar and the ground of truth. And in the book of Hebrews chapter 3, verse 6, it says, we are Elohim's house if we keep the faith. We are Elohim's house. We are Elohim's house. If we endure, we are Elohim's house. Hebrews chapter 3, verse 6, we are his house. But notice in 1 Timothy chapter 3, it says, verse 15, that we should behave ourselves in Elohim's house, which is the church of the living Elohim, the pillar and ground of truth. And we know we're his temple, and it is the pillar and ground of truth. So where should the truth be? In us. The Messiah said in his prayer in John 17, sanctify them, your people, through your truth. Your word is truth. In Psalm 119, verse 142, it says, thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. David said in Psalm 51 that you, speaking of Yah, you desire truth in the inward parts. The new covenant, which is in Jeremiah 31, and reiterated in Hebrews 8 and verse 10 says, this law should be on our hearts and our minds. And it is in the law of it is in the heart and minds of his people. The law, the Torah, the truth. Okay? That's the pillar and the ground of his church. Revelation 14:12. Here are the patience of the saints. Here are those who keep Elohim's commandments and the faith of Yeshua, the Messiah. The faith in the church of the pillar and the ground of truth. Truth matters in his eyes. So therefore, truth should matter in yours and truth should matter in mine. All right? So I pray this study blessed you and you were blessed by it. Looking at Genesis 28, that starting in verse 1, that Yah charges us. He charges us as he charged us. Isaac charged Jacob. He charged him and gave him an instruction or command. It says, and Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, don't take a wife of the Canaanites. We saw that he charged him. We saw in 4 that it said Elohim gave Abraham the land. We know he calls those things as they be not as though they were, as though they are not. And even looking at that, we looked at Deuteronomy, that he gives us the land, he tells us to go possess it, but sometimes we have to contend. As we know, the Messiah said we have to take up our cross. As we know, the Messiah said we have to deny ourselves. So I've given you this land, I've given you this area in your life, go and possess it and contend with them in battle, because there's something in that land. Sometimes to get this land or to walk in the ways that we know Yah is calling us, it's going to be some battles. It's going to be some denials. It's going to be some humbling of ourselves, some humbling of pride, some humbling of self. To be the man that Yah is calling you, or the woman Yah is calling you to be, or the man he's calling me to be. There's going to be something in that land, okay? So he calls us high so we can trust in him to be our strength and our shield. And we should go bold and in humility. As the Messiah said, learn of me for I am meek and lowly. And we know that Yeshua was also bold, and we should walk as he walked. All right. We also looked at this ladder from heaven to earth that Jacob saw, and it says the angels was descending and ascending on this ladder. We looked in John 1 that Yeshua is the ladder. Basically, he said the angels ascend and descend upon me. He is that ladder. He is the only way to the Father. He is the only way to heaven. Okay, the heavens, as Jacob was the ladder was from heaven, and it was reaching to the earth. The only way we get to the Father is through the Son. And it says Yah was above this ladder. So that's the only way that we can get to the Father. It's always through his Son. Okay? And we also looked at this last point, that the pillar and the ground of truth. As Jacob said in Genesis 28, verse 22, and this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be Elohim's house. Hebrews 3, verse 6 says we are his house. We know we're his temple, 1 Corinthians 6. And it is the pillar and the ground of truth. Thy law is truth. Your word is truth, the Bible says. He desires truth within us. And as we talked about briefly, the new covenant is not without his law. It is with his law in our hearts and in our minds, that we should walk in them. That's the outpouring of his spirit, Ezekiel 36. I will put my spirit upon you and cause you to walk in my statutes and judgments to do them. That's how we know we're being led by his spirit. So I pray this study blessed you as I always do. Have a wonderful day. Shalom.